just to start us out here, my name is Mary. I am an enterprise customer success manager here at MaintainX. For those whom I already work with, it's a pleasure to see you. If I don't work with you yet, I hope we get the chance to in the future. It's my role to make sure that customers are getting the most value out of MaintainX. So hopefully we can touch on some of those points today in this session. And I'm also joined by my wonderful colleague, Anoja. Anoja, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, yeah. So, hi everyone. My name is Anoja. If you don't know me yet, I am a product education specialist here at MaintainX. So, I essentially create content for MaintainX Academy, which, if you don't know, is our in-house platform designed to help you master MaintainX and its features. So today I'll be on this webinar sort of acting as your MC while we've got Mary acting as your subject matter expert. I think we can go ahead and start talking about connected facilities. So this Connected Facilities one-on-one webinar is a part of our one-on-one webinar series, which we run these webinars twice every quarter. And we essentially do a deep dive into a certain set of MaintainX features related to a specific topic. So in this case, connected webinars. We've got a packed agenda here for you folks that starts off with an intro to what connected facilities are, and then we'll go into asset transfer and visibility, part transfers, then global procedures and reporting. Now, some frequently asked questions. Is this webinar being recorded and will I get a copy? And the answer is yes, you will get a copy, which we aim to get to you via email by March 24th. And next question, how can I ask questions throughout the webinar? So you can submit your questions using the chat or the Q&A panel in the Zoom console, and questions submitted through the Q&A may be answered live by one of our keyboard warriors. We've got Hudson and Jen joining us and monitoring the chat. We want this session to be as informative as possible for you, so please do get your questions in there. Now, a bit of background information for you folks that are joining our webinar for the first time today. Here at MaintainX, our mission is to transform the way that frontline professionals manage the equipment and facilities that power our world. So we are focused on building for the long term by pushing innovation in mobile workflows, real-time analytics, and APIs. And most importantly, we are partnering with our customers. So we've got a world-class team here that develops and supports our products with industry expertise in manufacturing, facilities, and more. Pretty much though, all you need to know is that everything that we do here is to make your lives easier. That's the gist of it. And you can also see some of our awards there on the right side that we're very proud of. And I do want to point out that these are, oh, can we go back to that? I just want
Oh,
to
my
toot our horn a
bad.
little bit. That last slide with all our awards. I want
We
to point
sure
out
can.
these are all from 2025. And considering we're only 3 months into the year, I'd say that's pretty impressive. And if you want to see some of our past awards, you can just go ahead and Google us. Now, yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the good stuff. Or actually, no. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little confused with my slides here. Before we move on, I do want to just mention that industry leading companies are trusting MaintainX. And you can see some of the companies that we work with here on the side, and you'll probably recognize a few of them. But just to make it clear, MaintainX is for a wide variety of people. We work for everyone, whether you're running a single site facility or a global operation. We've got tools that fit your needs across a variety of industries. Okay, now let's get into the topic. So connected facilities. Mary, I'm going to turn to you for this one, and I'm going to ask you to please talk to us a little bit about what connected facilities are and some of the benefits that come with leveraging the connection between facilities.
Absolutely. So connected facilities are networks of multiple sites that operate using the same or similar processes and equipment. So just like we say, connected facilities, facilities that are connected to one another. The benefits of connected facilities as opposed to sites functioning completely independently, kind of threefold here, what I've decided to focus on. The first one is global procedural standards. So we can standardize how work is done across all sites to support quality and compliance. If one site is particularly strong at something, we're able to replicate that success at one of our other sites or all of our other sites if we have that interconnected kind of web going on. Second point, shared parts and assets. So we can reduce lead time for critical equipment by taking advantage of shared inventories. We can share our resources. If something is sitting unused somewhere, we can make sure we take it when we're in need as opposed to having to look externally. And of course, unified measurement here. What I mean by that is the ability to compare performance between sites with a consolidated view and standardized benchmarks. So we can set goals not only for our site, but across the network of sites and really see where our strength areas are and again, share those insights. Now, a fun statistic here on the right-hand side, there are just a little bit under 600,000 manufacturing facilities in the United States alone as of 2025. Would love to see what that number is globally, but just around 600,000 within the US. Now, you can imagine they're not all operating independently. This is a large number, and it's mainly made up of a network, right? So many different groups of interconnecting sites. Um, what they can then do is really benefit from operating within a cohesive manner, right? It would be much more complex and confusing if we had 600,000 individual sites, but we don't. We have companies with very many sites under their umbrella. We want to make sure that we can really make sure we're using every bit of functionality available to us to make sure we're as effective within our network. Now, before we get into kind of showing what that looks like within our different feature set, we will focus on the three key roles that we have within our connected facilities. So I'll start down here at the bottom with our technician. Our technician uses assets, parts, and procedures to execute work while entering accurate data back into the system. So they're typically limited to one site. Maybe they might work with a couple, but typically at the site level, focused on the day-to-day work, putting things in. At the slightly bigger level here, we have our site leader. So our site leader, this can include your maintenance leader, your strategy leader, operations manager even, and as well as those focused on engineering standards and quality assurance as well. They can be site leaders. They're responsible for ensuring that their sites have the necessary assets, parts, and procedures aligned to global and local standards. So they're figuring out how do we manage our site, make sure we're in line with all these other sites that we can look at, and make sure we're being as efficient and effective as we possibly can be. And the third level here, we're looking at the global leader. So zooming out once more, this would include your VPs and your director of operations, as well as potentially some regional managers and project managers. Those folks are typically responsible for monitoring and comparing performance across all of the sites and then enforcing downwards. So they're spotting, okay, where are our weak spots? Where are our areas of strength? And how can we replicate that? How can we use everything we have to push the entire group forwards? So technician, site leader, and global leader. Those are terms that we'll become quite familiar with.
All right. If you've been here before, you'll know that we love our polls because we like getting to know you folks. So here's a question for everyone on this call today. When it comes to managing maintenance operations across multiple sites, what matters most to you? Is it enforcing standardization? Is it optimizing resource usage? Is it unified visibility or all of the above? Sometimes it's hard to just choose one, right?
Yeah, give you the beauty of choice here.
Yeah. Give everyone about a minute there, I think. Okay, there we go.
Oh, everyone's speedy today. All right, so let's have a look here. All of the above. Well, that's a great response. Have your cake and eat it too. You know, why don't we focus on everything? Um, I'm not going to say there's a correct answer, but typically, yes, we'd want to be doing as many of these as possible because each feature is going to enhance the others, really getting into that kind of global functionality. We want to make sure that we're covering all of our bases. And that's why it's really helpful to have a system like MaintainX that can pull all of those things together for you with very little work, right? So we'll get into it. We'll focus on all three of those points, and hopefully everyone can walk away from here today knowing, okay, am I interested in all of them? Is there a particular one I'm interested in? But which one do I think for my setup would be most impactful for me to roll out first?
Okay, so we've generally talked about connected facilities. Now let's get into some of the specifics, specifically asset transfer and visibility. So Mary, coming back to you, could you tell us what it means to transfer an asset, why visibility matters when it comes to our assets, and why transferring assets should be part of our connected facility strategy?
Sure can. So assets, this is going to be our first pillar here. An asset transfer is simply the practice of moving equipment from one site to the next. Transfers can be performed to replace broken equipment or redistribute surplus inventory, or they may even be for things like mobile assets, right? For your fleet that is, by its very nature, constantly moving between sites. Now, the benefits of utilizing a system that can track your assets across different sites, firstly, we minimize work interruptions. You can replace your down equipment very quickly by moving working assets to sites in need instead of waiting for purchased equipment. Who knows how long that would be? If we have one we aren't using elsewhere, bring it in, or even just one that could be better used here. Bring that in and use the resources that we already have. You can also then reduce the time it takes to configure it, get it set up and running properly because you have all of its historical data. You know what's been done to it previously, you know any issues that it's had, you know every PM that's been done. That will travel along with it. So we have operating from a base of strong information. Second point here, reduce costs and spending. So you can optimize the distribution of assets across your sites to reduce the amount of surplus inventory that is sitting idle while avoiding unnecessary purchases when equipment goes down. It's not cheap, right? Getting new equipment in. We want to make sure that we're utilizing things we have before we start working externally. A, it's going to be more cost effective. B, it's more efficient. C, there may even be depreciation and environmental tax benefits for recycling your equipment versus buying new. So you might even get a perk for reusing something that you already have. Third point here, forecast with confidence. Global leaders can make fully informed purchasing decisions when they can view and manage their inventory in its totality across every site. We really need that bird's eye view to be able to make those high-level decisions.
All right, we already warned you. We love polls. So here's another one. How do you currently keep track of and manage the movement of assets between your sites? Do you use a CMMS, so a computerized maintenance management system like MaintainX? Do you use an enterprise asset management system? Do you use spreadsheets like Excel, or do you use pen and paper? And for this one, you can select all that apply.
And we'll give everyone a minute so they have enough time to answer this one. I'm intrigued to see.
Same.
Honestly.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
Answer honestly. Let's not try and put the best case scenario down here. I'm really intrigued to see what you guys are doing.
Mhm.
All right, let's have a look. Interesting, a range. So about 50% highest component there on spreadsheets. A good deal through CMMS, some in an enterprise asset management system, and some folks on pen and paper as well. So we do have a range. And I would say this kind of lines up with what I see mainly from my customers. Tracking assets tends to be kind of decentralized, right? We might be recording some in some way, and then we have to record it over here for this purpose and over here. And there never seems to be a streamlined process for actually managing that process. So that's what we want to show you today is essentially how we can streamline it, how we can centralize it, and how you can have the insights that you really need when transferring and managing your assets. So let's do it. Let's take a look at transferring assets. Now, I'm going to flip across into my MaintainX instance here, and I'm going to show you something new. All right. So what you'll notice is, hey, this looks like MaintainX on my assets, but wait, it's not quite the same. And that is because what I'm in right now is my global organization. So we have two tiers of organizations that you can have. Your sub-organization will be the organization that you're operating in for your day-to-day roles, right? And it looks like this. This is what we all know and we're familiar with. So I have two orgs I'm in here. I have my 101A, and I can also move across into 101B. This is how most people already have this configured. However, what we can do is activate the global level for you. So you see right here at the top, global organizations, I'm in two. We're going to be looking at 101 today. And what this does is it compiles all the information from those sub-organizations. So when I'm in my asset listing here, I'm seeing my assets across all of my sites. As you can see, I can see what's in 101B, 101A. I'm able to see everything all in one place. What's really cool is you can see it on the asset itself, or you could even filter for it for its organization as well if you just wanted to pull up easily one organization's assets. you'd be able to see here the compiled history of what has been done to this asset, no matter which organization it was in. You're able to see that in here, and its history as well. All of the information that's been logged on it, parts that have been added to it, everything is visible within this centralized place. So that's great. This is something that a lot of folks haven't had before, and it's something we can activate for you at any time. It is new. So this is kind of answering that question of how do I see everything? How do I, a global leader, see this? Now, the second question that we have here is really, okay, how do I transfer an asset from organization 1, organization A, to organization B? Great question. Well, typically, that's going to be at our site leader level, right? So let's go back down into 101A right here. Now, I've decided that I want to send a piece of equipment to 101B, so I'm going to go into my assets, and here we go. This is the asset that I've decided I would like to transfer. So the first thing to note here, let's see. We have the work order history here, and we have a couple of things that are open on hold. Bear that in mind. Now, to transfer this asset to the other site, I just have to go on my 3 dots in the top right corner, and I have to go transfer to another organization. Now I can choose which organization to transfer it to. I'm going to click one there. And there we go. I can make my transfer. That's now been done. You can see this asset is no longer in this organization. Now, what do we do though? That's been sent. That's great. Good. It's gone. But what do we do on the receiving side? Where does that actually pop up? Good question. Well, it's going to pop up within your asset page. So I'm going to toggle to my other organization. Oh, my mistake there, transferred it to the wrong one. Gonna fix that. There we go. So I'm going to toggle to my other organization. There we go. Now I'm in 101B. And when I go to my assets page, I just transferred my forklift because I may have sent it to the wrong one. Don't do that. You can see that this is bold and it has a notification on it as well here. Now, this isn't something that we've seen historically in MaintainX. You don't tend to get notifications on your assets because why would we need them? They're in work orders. But in this case, I'm going to click on this and all I need to do is configure my asset. When I click configure, it's going to let me determine which location I'm putting it in. Put it in my production line, why not? Then it's going to allow me to select my teams in charge and my parts and my vendors. What's really cool here is that if these correspond to teams, parts, and vendors that you already have in the receiving organization, the system will auto-populate it. It's matched, so we don't need to actually do that manually. All I need to do then is click update. I'm going to pop this online as the asset will have been in do not track for the duration of its transfer, of course. And there we go. My asset has been received. Now I'm going to scroll down in here and take a look. There we go. I can see all of the historical work in here. I can even open up these work orders so that I'm able to really dig into what was done, when, by whom, and how. One thing to note is that the open and on hold work orders do not transfer across. They will be canceled effectively. They won't be something you can then pick up and run with because ideally you'd be configuring that for your site. And all you would need to do, let's say we have this forklift and I'm going to want to do a particular service on it. I just need to click use it in new work order and set up my work order thereof. So things to remember. Global organization, child organizations. We initiate a transfer on the child, but we can get a global view of all our assets and their histories within our global organization right here. So a reminder of some best practices here. First things first, standardize your asset fields and names across your MaintainX organizations to make transfers seamless and prevent data loss. We want to make sure our custom fields are the same in both so we can transfer that data. And we want to make sure our asset names are legible to the person who's actually receiving them in the other org. No use having a code they can't understand. Second point, make a plan to recreate recurring work orders attached to the transferred assets. When you receive that asset in, set up your PM plan so you're good to go and maintain that. You can, of course, use the historical work orders on there for insights on how to do so. Third point, Check for surplus assets at sibling sites when deciding whether to replace an asset. Go to that global org, see what's available, what may be not in use at another organization that sat there. Rather use that than going externally. Fourth point here, link assets to global parts and procedures, which we'll get into in a minute, to reduce the amount of time spent making site-specific configurations. What I mean by that is the procedures and parts, those linkages will transfer over if we have everything connected in an ideal manner. So exciting stuff. This is new. If you are interested in getting it set up on your account, let us know and we will be able to toggle it on for you and your information will pop up in that global org. It's always fun to do.
Yeah, thank you for all that information, Mary. I think this feature is so great, especially the work orders being transferred. Like that is a game changer. So important, right? Now, let's talk about another similar topic and something that can be just as important to your asset transfers, which is parts transfers. So, again, coming back to you, Mary, tell us what it means to transfer a part and why we should be transferring parts in our connected facility strategy.
Yeah, well, you'll never guess this, but transferring parts is the transfer of parts from one site to another, just like with assets as well. Um, the benefits are fairly similar here, right? Reducing vendor dependency. The overarching goal is let's get in-house first rather than going externally. That also helps us maintain a lean inventory. We're not having as many holding costs, right? By having to store so much surplus inventory to the sites across the board. We're really making sure that we've allocated our resources where they are the most valuable and the most needed. Third point in here that's interesting though, prevent downtime. Of course, nothing worse than a machine going down. You're all ready to do your work. You haven't got the critical part you need. You have to order it in. That is extending our mean time to repair. It is extending that downtime. It is not what we want to see. So if we make sure that we have the components we need across our network, we can get those parts in as quickly as possible and minimize those downtimes as much as we possibly can. Now, this is a statistic that we have used before, but I like it. 90% of supply chain leaders reported challenges in 2024. It's almost across the board, right? When we speak to each other, my customers and I, supply chain is difficult. Let's maximize what we have in-house through this suite of features to make sure we can kind of sidestep that as much as possible and effectively manage our inventories.
Okay, now that we know about parts transfers, we've got another poll for you folks. So, how do you currently keep track of and manage the movement of parts between your sites? Do you use a CMMS like MaintainX, for example? Do you use an enterprise resource planning system? Do you use spreadsheets like Excel or pen and paper? And again, with this one, you can select all that apply. I wonder if it'll be similar to the last question. Pretty similar questions, so.
I'm intrigued. I like the number of multiple choices we have today.
Yeah,
No
it's
hard
a
decisions.
good number.
I'm expecting a split on this one. We'll see.
Okay.
Bingo. Like I say, a split here. So about 43% using through CMMS, some through ERP, some through spreadsheets, and some through pen and paper. And this really aligns with what I see from my customers. The ideal goal state, of course, is have everything within one system. But historically, what we've been moving from is some parts not important enough. They're just going to be in a spreadsheet. Some parts, not even in that, not worth counting them. I'll just write something down. It really tends to be incredibly decentralized. And again, just like with asset transfers, this is what we want to address with the use of global parts. It is having your parts digitized. Go check out our last webinar for more information on that and making sure that we can optimize what we have across sites. So let's get into it and take a look at how we can transfer parts between organizations. Now, I mentioned before when we were on our global org, this is for our bird's eye view, right? But to actually transfer something, we need to be at the site level. So the first thing I'm going to do is hop down to my site level. There we go. Now I'm going to open up my parts module and take a look at my inventory. Now what you'll see is that within this given piece I have here, 196, great. I can see what is available within other organizations. So this, as we can see, is the same part that is located at the other facility. Now, something that I want to highlight here is that it is not the name that links the two. You could have them named different things. You can choose what the mapping field would be. The most common things that I tend to see, it would be either your vendor part number or my personal recommendation, always use your manufacturer's number, because if they're using different vendors across different sites, especially if we're talking different geographical regions, we want to make sure connections aren't missed just because our vendors don't match up. So, few different options there, but we can choose the aspect of the part that you would like to connect them and map them across facilities. In any case, whenever we pull up a part in here now that is linked to one in my other organization, I'll be able to see how many they have in stock. Now, in order to initiate my transfer, the first thing I'm going to do is filter for needs restock. And let's see here, we have a ball joint, but not available. What am I going to do? Geared motor, not available. Bummer. All right, well, we're going to start with this one. I'm going to request some from this organization. I know they only have 19 units and I have 196, but I happen to have a job that needs 205. So I'm going to replace that with some of their inventory. All I need to do to initiate this transfer is click on request. Really simple. And I'm going to tell them, hey, you've got 19 available. I'd like half of them. And I'm going to be very polite and say, please, we need a lot. And there we go. The request has now been sent through to the other organization. FAQ here. Can my full users do that? No, your full users can see what's available in other organizations, but it's going to require your admin to actually initiate or continue that transfer. So let's hop off into the receiving org over here. The receiving of the request. Parts. Again, I've got a call to action here. I've got a notification on parts, which isn't something we typically see outside of global features. You have one part request from other organizations that need your attention. So I have to go and see details here, and oh, look, cheeky. They want 9 of my 19 units. See details? All right, looks good to me. I can actually send them to them. So all I need to do is approve this and say, yeah, I'm sending across 9, and click transfer. Then my job's done, apart from the actual physical sending of the part. Now, back in 101B, who originally requested this part to come through, I'm going to be able to see I have one approved parts request awaiting confirmation. So what this means is they have approved this now, and all I need to do is confirm its receipt. So I requested 9, they transferred 9, and I received 9. All good to go. Update inventory. And there we go. All good to go. So it should be fairly straightforward for us to be able to manage our inventory now that we can see what's in the other site, we can initiate a transfer, and we can receive what we need to receive. One thing I might recommend in here, beyond what we've already talked about, is I know a lot of you have teams set up within your accounts, and you can select a parts escalation team. So if we want to be notified for anything related to parts transfers, it might reduce some of the pressure on the system administrator to have to do them all themselves. So if I want to take my maintenance team and make sure they get those notifications, I'm just going to go on edit details, and I'm going to set them as an escalation team for parts transfer requests. That means that they will receive the notifications as well, and we can all help out. All right, best practices. Again, standardize the fields and names. It's going to make it much easier to map and much easier to understand. 2, check for the surplus. Always look internally first, externally afterwards. 3rd point, ensure that transferable parts have a key field such as an ordering number or a manufacturer's number that links them across organizations. I've seen this be done in different ways. It's really about what makes sense for your organization, what's going to be best for you. So you decide what that is, let us know, and we'll configure it according to that mapping field. 4th point in here, set up escalation teams to be notified about part transfer requests. The last thing you want is for there to be a week where your system administrator is on vacation and we don't get any part transfer requests, nothing gets sent through. We really kind of reduce our risk by having more people that are in the know about what's going on there.
And I love how you said please with that part transfer. Like if you're polite, then they have to do it, right? That's kind of
Maybe that should be another top tip.
yeah,
Let's be polite and you're
exactly.
more likely to get it.
Yeah, exactly. 5th unofficial best practice.
Very
So
important.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So let's keep it going. Now, we've talked about transfers with parts and assets. Let's switch up the topic a bit and talk about global procedures. Now, procedures are a feature available to everyone using MaintainX, but Mary, could you tell us what procedures are in a global context and how we can use our global procedures in our connected facility strategy?
Sure can. Global procedures are SOP templates created and maintained in your global MaintainX organization. The templates are then published downwards to local organizations or individual sites. So essentially, at that global level, we have a bank of procedures and we can decide which facilities are going to be using them. And if we have an edit that needs to be made, say like a regulation or kind of compliance point gets updated, we can change it in one spot in that global organization and then have everything pushed down to the sites that are actually utilizing it. Why do we want to do this? Well, firstly, enforce standardization. Simplify everything by having folks do it in the same way across sites. This has been one of the biggest help for my customers using this feature. They notice a site is particularly strong at doing one particular kind of maintenance or on maintaining a particular asset type, for example. And then it's not too much thought in it. We say, okay, let's not recreate the wheel. Whatever they're doing there, we're replicating it elsewhere. We're making sure that every site has the access to that information and can then be agile and move to what they need to do, right? So it's really simplifying things for your teams. Third point, scale with consistency. Everyone talks about scaling, right? It's not necessarily an easy thing to do. Again, we don't want to recreate the wheel at every single site. If we have something that works, we can then easily replicate it across new locations, making sure that your onboarding is rapid and your performance is consistent across your entire enterprise. Shared knowledge, it can never be a bad thing.
Okay, we're just over halfway here. So, Mary, as you always say, shall we see who is still awake? Now, for this poll, we want to know, how do you currently enforce standardization across the SOPs used at your sites? Do you use your CMMS? Do you use memos and emails? Or do you not currently enforce any standardization?
Single choice on this one and no wrong answers. Be honest. I want to know.
Mhm.
I've seen it done a lot of different ways, I will say. And a lot of the time, not at all. We're kind of all operating in silos, and that's okay. It's not always what we want at the end of the day, but it's where we have to begin most of the time. All right, let's take a look. Okay, so 25% through CMMS, that's good. 46% on memos and emails, and 29% not doing so yet in brackets. So this is kind of as expected here. Ideally, what we'll be able to do is show you this feature, make sure that we can get it set up on your account if you're using MaintainX, or set it up from the beginning if you are soon to be coming on board with MaintainX. And therefore, we've kind of simplified standardization for you. That's really the name of the game when it comes to global procedures. So that's a lot of talking about it, but what does it actually look like? Well, let's take a look. I'm going to slide back into my organization here. And again, procedures. We're starting at a global level and we're pushing down into sites. So I am going to start at my global level right here. And what do you know? I'm already on my procedure library. Now, in this case, I actually want to make a new procedure template. So I am going to go to the top right-hand corner because they can be made at the global level. And I'm going to say, oh, I'm going to make it manual actually. Global lockout tagout procedure. I'm just going to have a few checkboxes in here. Steps to follow. Verify work complete and guards in place. Notify affected folks and verify safe to start. We're going to remove devices for stored energy. Lock and tag. Restore power. Now you'll forgive me, that is very brief, but does the job. I'm going to make that a required field. This looks great to me. And one more thing I want on here, I want this to be signed off on whenever it's done. So I'm going to add in a signature field. There we go. I have a basic procedure. To kind of level this up a bit, I'm actually going to turn on my procedure scoring. And what that means is that I can attribute scores to however many things are done. This is really helpful for monitoring how competent certain sites are at completing certain procedures and making sure we're hitting kind of our global standards there. For example, in this case, I have 5 points essentially available for this procedure because I have 5 checkboxes to do. Now, I would hope that in this procedure, everyone's doing all of them. So I'm looking for 100% procedure completion across the board. If I see a site that's frequently finishing this with only 60% of those tagged, I know I need to go in and give some support. So it's helpful and gives us some information. Alrighty, so we just need to set this up in here. There we go. Save it. There we go. So I have my procedure, I have my fields, and now all that I need to do is actually share it with organizations. So I could either go through and select them one by one, or I could select all organizations in here. And next, new Floto procedure. There we go. And all I need to do is publish this. Now, what I will be able to see within my org here, my global org here, is of course the procedure, but also which sites are using it and how many active work orders they have with it. So how much is it actually being used in practice? Now, if you want to review all of your global procedures, it's fairly straightforward. We have a nice filter in here. All of these ones that we're seeing are actually site level inspections. And the reason that I can tell that is when something is a global procedure, it will have this nice box underneath it highlighting that it is a global procedure. So the goal in standardization over time would be to look at these, condense them, pick the best one, make it a global procedure and share it so that we don't have as many duplicates and we start to have a library that is almost entirely global procedures, which would indicate kind of true standardization across the board. Now, every time that we publish this down, it will give an email to the admin of the local org saying that it has a new procedure available. And of course, as soon as that is available, they will be able to access it within their organization. So let's just go to 101A into their procedures. And there we go. This is the one I created at the global level, now available in their organization. Best practice here, as soon as this is published down, we can actually connect it within its settings to our relevant assets and to our relevant locations and so on and so forth. The reason that I say this is it's going to make it far easier to select it in a work order. If we're making a work order, we have the asset associated, this procedure will then pop up right at the top as a relevant procedure. So always bear that in mind. All right, recap best practices and let's see if I hit them all. Connect global procedures to assets, locations, and teams after they've been published. Exactly. Like we say, make it easier to select those procedures. 2, use procedure scoring on global procedure to allow individual site leaders to measure adherence to process. Really, really, really valuable tool in kind of continuous improvement. Third point, when publishing updates to global procedures, audit open and in-progress work orders that use that procedure. It's always a good idea to take a look into what we're affecting before we actually affect it, right? And fourth point here, of course, restrict procedure authoring permissions in sub-organizations to avoid redundancy between local and global procedures. So what I mean by that is essentially restrict who can make new procedures in different ways so that we make sure we aren't, again, recreating the wheel time and time again with procedures. It's a really cool one. Take a look into it. I think it will be valuable for a lot of us as we start this move towards standardization.
Yeah, Mary, you're just killing it as always, but you're not done just yet. We've got one more topic today before we get into our live Q&A, where we'll be putting Mary in the hot seat to answer some of your burning questions. But before we do that, let's talk about global reporting. So, Mary, what is global reporting? And for folks that are already familiar with site level reporting, what should they be keeping in mind for reporting at the global level?
Yeah, absolutely. See, you won't believe this either, but global reporting is reporting at the global level. It involves the consolidation and analysis of data from each of your individual sites. The data is aggregated to provide summary insights about the health of your facilities network. Now, what I mean by this is The reporting that you already have gained in MaintainX, right, through your work orders, through your asset statuses and asset health, that is then going to automatically feed up to the level at the global org to be compiled with other sites. There's nothing manual that's needed there, nothing that needs to change, no time that it needs to take for it to feed up. The system is going to aggregate it for you guys automatically. This is really helpful. Firstly, we want to identify outlier sites, top performing and lowest performing sites. Let's share insights. Let's provide support. Let's make sure we're allocating our internal, improvement resources or training resources or administrative resources to where it can be the most valuable. Second point, measure KPIs holistically. So we are assessing the health of our entire site network as one whole, instead of having to compile different siloed data, which may have different inputs on it as well, right? We may be comparing apples and oranges. No, now we're looking at the whole network in one shot, so we can better understand the overall impact of our site leaders' efforts at the local level. Third point here, make informed decisions. I feel like this is a point that we keep coming back to time and time again in this session today. All of this global functionality helps us determine the right thing to do in terms of process and resource allocation based on a complete picture of site-specific metrics and regional trends. So the whole time that we've been talking about global features, I've been saying, allocate this to where it's most needed, allocate that to where we have the highest use of it, allocate this procedure to a site that might be struggling. But how do we determine that information? In global reporting, this is what's going to give us the insight to know where to redirect things. 98% of manufacturers experienced at least one data-related issue in 2024. I wish we all had cameras here so we could put our hands up if that was the case, but I'm pretty sure it's everyone experienced at least one data issue in 2024, right? So the more that we can automate and aggregate of our reporting without the need for manual intervention, the better, the more reliable our data is, and the better decisions we can make off it. Big fan of data.
Big fans. And speaking of data, we're here trying to get some data from our folks again with the last poll of the day. Which of the following best describes your current method for reporting on your network of sites? Is it consolidated reporting through your CMMS? Is it consolidated reporting through a third-party analytics tool? Are you doing manual aggregation of data? And is it site level reporting only? This one is a single choice question. Yeah.
I like that we gave the luxury of choice at the beginning with the multiple choices, and halfway through we went, no.
Yeah.
One choice only now.
Yeah. Next time we'll do it the opposite way.
As a
Better
treat.
to give options. Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's take a look at these numbers. All right. Okay, so highest component here, site level reporting only. That makes sense, 38%. 30% consolidated reporting through your CMMS. This is great. If you're using MaintainX reporting multi-org, I'm about to show you something that will blow your mind. Consolidated reporting through third-party tool, little lower there, and the poll ran away. But that's okay. We went through our most important points. Manual aggregation, that was it, 22%. So manual aggregation is going to give us the most errors. That's what we want to kind of improve upon and make sure that we find a way to automate it for you. A, it's easier, less time and headache consuming, and B, it's more reliable. If we're using MaintainX, I have a treat for you. And if you're using site level reporting only, you're going to enjoy this too. Let's take a look. Guys, I'm really excited about this one. This is new today, actually. So let's take a look at it together. I'm going to head back into my global organization. All we do is push a button and it puts global reporting on. There is no configuration needed on your side at all. And look what it does. So cool. So firstly, I'm on this year so far. That's my date range, just the same as it would be in the site level reporting. I can easily change it if I want to. But what we get here is an overview. And this is looking at all of my organizations. So I only have 3. Some of you may have far more in here. That's okay. It's giving me an overall view of my asset availability over time. It's giving me an overall view of my mean time between failures, my mean time to repair for my organization as a whole. For work orders, I'm able to rank low to high or high to low the amount of work orders that are being created versus completed. What percentage completion are we at? Who's getting things done particularly on time? Who might need a little help? And our preventive ratio as well. Okay, so let's see. This site is looking higher. Can they reach out and give some support to this site? Figure out what we did to increase that ratio over time. I'm getting those bird's eye insights right here, and I haven't clicked a single button yet. This is just here, which is so cool. And if we scroll down, of course, organizations. Now, some of you are going to have a lot in here and then probably multiple pages. But what's wonderful is I'm seeing all of that information in one place. Now, guys, I'm a really, really good site leader, and this is why everything is green here. But what we can do is we can set goals. And if we aren't quite hitting our goals or if we're far off our goals, what you will see is this will become a patchwork of green, yellow, and red. So you can immediately highlight where the areas of issue are. You can immediately see where the areas of strength are, unless you happen to be, like yours truly and everything's great. This is going to be incredibly helpful to a lot of you. I know it is. I turned it on for a customer yesterday because I thought he might enjoy it, and he immediately sent me an email saying, "Where has this been my whole life?" So I hope this is as exciting for you guys as it is for myself and my customers. And it's not just this overview. This is really kind of our snapshot to show the things that we have learned through, interviews with customers are the most important to you. But any report that you have at the site level within MaintainX, you also now have aggregated at the global level without the need to go, organizations here and click, 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 all of the organizations you need. It just does it for you. Same thing for asset health. We've got that all in there. Same thing for exports and even custom dashboards. We can create custom dashboards at the company level. It doesn't need to be just at the site level. One thing I want to show you is how to set those goals. I mentioned before, I'm tracking really great towards all of my goals, but we can configure them. What I'm seeing here, if I actually saw all green for all of my sites, I know my goals aren't configured well enough because we're hitting all of them, so we might need to make an adjustment. To adjust them, we go to settings and we go to features and into reporting right here. Two kinds of goals we can have. The first one, asset health goals. Fairly straightforward in here. Asset availability. What constitutes great? What constitutes okay? What constitutes bad? Now, I'm doing really well, so I'm going to raise this up. Planned downtime. Say, yeah, I want that to be 90. Mean time between failures. I want that way up. My mean time to repair, I want that lower. I want that at 12 hours. And bad would be anything over 45. So we can configure our goals exactly as we like them in here. It is entirely at your discretion how you configure your goals. And it's no longer just for asset health that we can do goals. We can also set maintenance goals in here. Now, this is more around work orders. So what is a great work order completion ratio? I have the system defaults in here, but I'm going to change them for my organization. I want great to be over 70, 97%. I want my on time to be 90. I want my preventive versus reactive 80. And there we go. I've configured my goals. Now those will transfer through. So when we take a look at our reporting, there we go. Now it's not all in the green for me. Some things are yellow. I'm immediately highlighting my slightly weaker spots and I know what to go in and work on. We've had a lot of information today. 4 full topics that we've covered. My recommendation to you is we need to know where's going to be the most effective for us to start. Is it sharing pots? Is it sharing assets? Is it standardizing our practices? In order to find where the best place to start would be, start in reporting. That's what's going to give you the data, and every single data-driven decision is better than a hunch. I'm convinced of it. So, best practices in here. First point, set asset health and maintenance goals to make insights easier to grasp. We couldn't see them at first. By the end, really obvious. Second point, use saved filter sets to pare down dashboards for global leaders that oversee only a subset of sites. So you can easily add filters on just like you do at your regular sites to narrow down information and make it easily accessible for other people. You could have a saved filter per region, for example, so that regional leaders can go in and just see what they need to for their sites. Third point, drill into your top performing sites to identify what is working so we can share it with other sites. Never hoard good knowledge. We want to make sure that we can share those insights across our company. And fourthly, configure scheduled exports of your global reports to regularly circulate aggregate data with facility stakeholders. That was a mouthful. Essentially, instead of asking everyone to come in to MaintainX all the time to review those reports, set yourself up a scheduled export so it would go out to the key players once a month, for example, and they'll have those insights delivered direct to their inbox. They don't need to lift a finger.
Okay, that was a ton of information we have gone through today. Now, before we get to our Q&A, let's sum up what we've learned so far. So, first off, when it comes to asset transfers and parts, managing your assets and inventory across your sites is all about having the right information at the right time, right? So, for global leaders, this is about reviewing cross-site inventory to make smart decisions about deployment, replacements, and purchasing. For site leaders, it's making sure your facility has the assets, parts, and data it needs to keep everything running smoothly. We want to reduce downtime and minimize reliance on vendors. And for technicians, having full access to asset data, work history, and required parts ensures that you can complete maintenance efficiently and effectively. Then with global procedures, now your standardized procedures will help you keep operations running smoothly no matter the location. So for global leaders, you want to enforce compliance and best practices across all sites with the use of standardized SOPs, and this will ensure consistency and efficiency. For site leaders, it's about sticking to proven processes while staying flexible to adapt to operational changes. And for technicians, having up-to-date procedures and data means that you can complete your tasks accurately and confidently. Now, with global reporting, this is about keeping an eye on performance across locations, and that's key to optimizing your operations. So for global leaders, that means tracking your top-level KPIs, comparing site performance, identifying problem areas, and then replicating what's working best in your top-performing sites. Mary, I hope your seat's still feeling warm. This is it. It's the moment. We're officially at the live Q&A portion of our webinar. So Mary, you ready for that first question?
I'm ready.
Okay, first question. If I have an asset that has a 3-month maintenance schedule, when I send that asset to another site, will they know to keep up with the current schedule? And will the work order and PM transfer with it?
An interesting question. Would they know to keep up with it? I mean, they should because they'll see your work order history of those PMs coming through every 3 months or every month. I forget what you mentioned. But will the open ones transfer? No, they aren't going to, just keep popping up for that team because there's various things in a work order that site will need to figure out for themselves, like who it's assigned to and so on and so forth. So yes, they'll be able to see that they should keep doing it because they will have all of the history there that they can read and refer to. But no, it's not just going to keep on churning it out for them. They are going to reset that PM up and keep it going as they want to at that facility.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Question 2. If I'm transferring an asset, are the parts assigned to the asset being captured in the asset transfer, even if the part doesn't actually exist in the receiving org?
So the parts that match up will be transferred. If the part exists in the receiving org, then it will be transferred across.
All right. Short and simple. I love it. Third question. Do I have to be a leader or admin to see what parts other locations and sub-orgs have?
So you don't need to be an admin to see them. A full user can see them as well, provided they do have access to the other org. They will be able to see what is available to them, but they aren't able to actually initiate or accept or confirm those transfers. It needs to be an admin to do that. So it's kind of great because it gives everyone an insight into what is there, but restricts who can actually go and act on it and initiate a bunch of transfers.
Okay. All right, fourth question. I have a procedure that includes meters that other orgs in my company would benefit from. Can those be shared as well?
Yep, absolutely. You can share the procedure. Once the procedure has a meter in it, it's going to ask you to select the correct meter, right? So it will transfer as an open meter field because the meter that was linked to in your org might not be the correct one in another organization. So it will have an open meter field. And when completing that procedure, it will say, please select the correct meter. And I'll say, okay, this is my forklift 3 hours meter. And then I can put in my relevant reading. So you should be A-okay.
Okay, perfect. That makes sense. Now, question 5, what is the best way to capture the asset's health when it's being moved from org to org?
Great question. Great question. So there's a couple of different things. Obviously, you have your work order history, right, that transfers with the asset, but you're not going to see the asset status history. That said, everything pulls into the global level. So if you go into your global reporting and you pull up asset health, you can see the health of any asset that is in there. So you'll get a snapshot of what's been going on with your asset as well.
Okay, yeah, good question. I imagine a lot of people are wondering about that. Now, sixth and final question, can I transfer multiple assets at a time?
Good question. So the asset transfers must be initiated, obviously, at that kind of child organization, sub-organization level. And what we find is that it's rare that folks need to transfer multiple assets at one time. So the system will only do one at a time, but here's the caveat. It will transfer that asset and all of its sub-assets. So when we were talking to customers in advance of launching this, we found that when people are transferring multiple assets in one go, they tend to be part of the same hierarchy, right? So the answer is no, you can't transfer multiple assets at a time if we're thinking discrete assets. But yes, if we're talking about an asset and its sub-assets, which will be pulled across with it.
Gotcha. Okay. All right,
Good
Mary, as
question.
always, yeah, really good questions. And you crushed them all, not surprised. I will give you a chance to rest your vocal cords now while I share a few ways that our audience can learn more about MaintainX. So first up, we have MaintainX Academy, which is our self-paced learning hub. And here you'll find certification courses, step-by-step guides, and all of our past webinar recordings, plus quick how-to videos to help you master the platform. Next, there's the MaintainX community, and this is where maintenance professionals like you can connect, share insights, and get answers. If you've got a question, chances are someone else has the same question. So jump in, start a discussion, and learn from others in the field. And then finally, we offer 3 different webinars here. So the first one is Feature 101 webinars, which you're in right now. And we aim to run these sessions twice every quarter and focus on a specific set of features to help you get the most out of MaintainX. Next, we've got office hours where you can bring your questions for a live Q&A, sort of like the one that we just had, and you'll be joined by Mary or one of our other experts, usually even 2 experts, and you can go ahead and try to stump them, but fair warning, it's not easy. And then we've got MX Masterclass, and this is our newest series featuring industry leaders talking about key trends and best practices in maintenance. So there are plenty of ways to keep learning that can match your style, so check them out. And that's pretty much a wrap. So huge thanks to everyone who joined us today. We hope you're walking away with some useful insights. You will receive an email with a survey link. So if you can spare a minute to fill out that survey, we'd really appreciate it. Your feedback helps us shape these sessions to make sure that they're as valuable for you as they can be. So we really do listen to you folks. And on behalf of the entire webinar team, thank you for coming and enjoy the rest of your Thursdays or whatever day it is from wherever you're joining us from.